Govan, you've been going through the affidavit. What are you able to tell us about Shaun Abrahams' main arguments at this stage?
Well, what we know at this point, Tabigile, is that Shaun Abrahams denies vehemently all the allegations put by Willie Hofmeyr to the Mokgoro inquiry. And when Willie Hofmeyr was on the stand, he basically said that Shaun Abrahams institutionalized the culture of targeting law enforcement officials that were prosecuting cases of corruption. Not in as many words, but he basically said Abrahams and Mokgoro Jiba, the suspended deputy head of the NPA, worked together to stifle high-profile cases involving politicians. So we do know that he has finally submitted his affidavit to the Mokgoro inquiry, and this was after the inquiry wrote to him asking him to appear in the face of Hofmeyr's allegations against him. Abrahams basically saying that the inquiry has not been established to look into his actions while at the NPA, nor was it established to determine whether or not his actions were lawful and in accordance with the NPA's prosecution's policy. In that regard, it's been very dismissive of Willie Hofmeyr and all of his claims, essentially saying that Willie Hofmeyr sounds like someone who is still disgruntled at the decision taken in 2015 to move him from the asset forfeiture unit to the legal affairs division of the NPA. And based on a few of the attachments to Abrahams' affidavit, it's clear that Abrahams and Hofmeyr did not see eye to eye during their time at the NPA.
But it's quite interesting, Govan, that Shaun Abrahams emerged as one of the central figures throughout the inquiry by the retired Justice Yvonne Mokgoro, but it was the inquiry that then had to write to him saying, make some sort of representation. Why did he choose not to appear?
Well, simply because the inquiry doesn't have any subpoena powers, and so they couldn't subpoena him to appear before the inquiry. All that they could do was send him a formal letter of request to have him appear, failing which he was then asked to supply an affidavit responding to the remarks made by Willie Hofmeyr. I have to say that on the day when Hofmeyr was on the stand and made these allegations against Abrahams, the legal team for Advocate Mokgoro Jiba seemed to have been taken aback by it, so much so that they stopped Willie Hofmeyr midway through his testimony and said to Justice Yvonne Mokgoro that it would really be important for Shaun Abrahams to appear and respond to these allegations. Of course, he had the option of appearing or not appearing, and he chose not to appear. And then he also missed the deadline by which official submission should have been made to the Mokgoro inquiry. He says that was because he was getting legal advice. And after that legal advice, he files this affidavit, which doesn't really go into the details of some of these high-profile cases, some of them, of course, including the prosecution of former Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan, and then some other senior Hawks officials such as Anwar Dramat, Johan Boysen, Shadrach Sabia, and the like. So it seems as if Abrahams doesn't really want to go into those details. All he's saying as his defense is it seems as if Willie Hofmeyr holds a grudge against him.
So in essence, Govan, if I'm hearing you correctly, the submission by Shaun Abrahams does not at all address what is at the heart of this process, which is to determine the fitness for office of Mokgoro Jiba and Lawrence Mkhwebi.
It doesn't, and in fact it says in its opening statements that he himself is not the subject of the inquiry, and therefore he doesn't want to delve into the issues which the inquiry will consider before making the determination of whether Jiba and Advocate Lawrence Mkhwebi are fit to hold office. It seems as if Shaun Abrahams is trying to keep the inquiry at arm's length and not get into the issues, I suppose because once he does that, he would also be making statements which would be under consideration by Justice Yvonne Mokgoro when making that decision on Jiba and Mkhwebi. And based on his affidavit, it does seem as if all he's prepared to say at this stage is that he denies the allegations and he believes Hofmeyr is really still disgruntled by his decision to be moved into another division. I must say this is now the second witness who they've brought to try and discredit Willie Hofmeyr, who was pretty much the star witness at the inquiry and someone who was brought in to reflect on the integrity and the decisions of Mokgoro Jiba and Lawrence Mkhwebi, and someone whose testimony really painted a picture of two advocates who are not fit to hold office and should no longer be in the NPA.
ENC reporter Govan Whittle speaking to us from our newsroom position this lunchtime. Thank you.